Okay, middles, it's your turn. This week, we are going to connect area to multiplication and addition. Let's check out your problem. It says, use the distributive property to find the area of the rectangle. Well, what do we need to know to solve this problem? Did you say that we need to know the area formula? If you did, you're absolutely correct. The area formula is our length times our width. Well, what else do we need to know to solve this problem? That's right, we need to understand the distributive property. So the distributive property is when we take one number and we multiply it by other terms because they share a space. So for example, when you look at our rectangle, one of the sides of our rectangle is the same for both of the two rectangles that are connected together. Do you know which number that is? Did you say the 5? If you did, you're absolutely correct. The 5 is the term that we're going to distribute to both the 3 and the 4. So let's talk about what that looks like. We know that the area of our rectangle is going to be 5 times the 3 plus 5 times the 4. When we write something before distributing, we always write the number on the outside of the parentheses and the terms that we're distributing to on the inside of the parentheses. When a term is on the outside of the parentheses, it just means that we can multiply it by both sides. Sometimes you'll see teachers use arrows to remind you that you're going to multiply the number by both terms. So I know I'm going to multiply 5 times 3, and then I'll multiply times 5. I'll multiply 5 times 4. Here is what that would look like. Our area would say 5 times 3 plus, because remember, we have to put it back together, 5 times 4. And so now all we have left to do is to multiply them. So let's check this out. 5 times 3 is what? Did you say 15? You're absolutely correct. So what do we do next? That's right, we're going to multiply 5 times 4. And 5 times 4 is, you guessed it, it's 20. Well, do you remember the last step? That's right, because our rectangle was split in two parts, we now have to put it together. So 15 plus 20 equals 35. That tells us that the area of our rectangle is 35 square units. Great job, middles. All right, senior scholars, you're up next. Our standard for this week is to use a place value strategy to divide numbers. So let's take a look at our problem. Today, we're going to divide 526 divided by 5. So let's start by setting this up because this is going to be a long division problem. So we're trying to figure out how many times 5 goes into 526. And again, we want to use a place value strategy to help us figure this out. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the number 5 and I'm going to think to myself, how many times does 5 go into 526? And what can I figure out just in my head? Well, if I think of a number that's close to 526, that nice and evenly multiplies times 5 to get to something that is close, first thing that I think about is 100. So I can multiply 100 times 5 and get what, guys? That's right. If I multiply 100 times 5, I get 500. And so now I can take that 500 out of 526 because I've already used it. When we're doing this strategy, we're working to come up with partial quotients. Just like we have partial products, when we multiply, partial quotients are going to be able to be put together in order to find our final answer. So back to our problem. 526 minus 500 gives us 26. So we know that there's 26 left to use in this problem. So we're going to use a similar strategy now with the 26. So now I want you to think to yourself, 5 times what number is close to 26? So 5 goes into 26 about how many times? Did you say 5? If you did, you're absolutely correct because 5 times 5 is 25. And so if I do 26 minus 25, I'm left with, that's right, I'm left with 1. And so just like we did before, we take our 1 and we slide it on over. But here's the thing. Can 5 go into 1? No, it can't because it's smaller. And so because the number is smaller than 5, it becomes what we call our remainder. And that's what the R stands for. So remember, we're not quite done yet because we said that these are partial quotients. So we have to put them together to get our final answer. So we're going to say 100 plus 5 equals, that's right, 105. And we have to make sure we include our remainder. So the answer to our problem is 105, remainder 1. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me today on Calendar Math. I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.